Yeah, I guess I've just always been hypersexual. I had a 7 guy Brazilian gang in my early 20s before I was ever even in the industry.
What makes it a Brazilian gang?
Well, so I'll tell you the story. I was working at that restaurant, Lucille's, and there was a girl who worked there who was this beautiful Brazilian woman, and it was her birthday. So she and her husband had a bunch of their friends from Brazil come out to party with them. And I went to the bar with all of them, connected with one of the guys who was really funny and kind of interesting. We all went back to her house. She and her husband went to sleep, and that guy and I went up into the loft. He threw a condom on the bed and I was down. I think I was like 22 at the time. I didn't get into sex work until 25. And so I decided I absolutely wanted to have sex with him. Obviously, we were being safe about it. And then one of the other Brazilian guys walked up into the loft. And I looked at him and I looked at the other guy and I went, okay, I've never done this before, but I've always wanted to. Like multiple men is a fantasy of mine. And I feel good about this. They were both hot, you know? And so I said, okay, all right, let's go. Come on in, right? And then another one. It was like a clown car of Brazilian men, just like up the stairs, up the stairs, up the stairs. And just, they all were so respectful. They were so sweet to me and just couldn't believe it was happening. And oh, you're so beautiful. And this is so great. And it was just this overwhelmingly positive, consensual, safe experience that it was really wonderful. And it was, yeah, 7 Brazilian guys. It's still the most I've had at once with men.
So what was the aftermath? Like after everyone finished, how did that break down?
So I don't really remember that part. What I do remember is because I mean it was so many years ago now, but what I do remember is I hooked up with 2 of them after, right? Separately. And one of them I went to his house and you could see like pictures of his girlfriend everywhere and I went, "Oh, this isn't very hot." And then the one I had originally connected with, he and I hooked up and he stealthed me. He took the condom off.
Oh,
So I yelled at him, which I don't get angry very often.
yeah, but that's something to get angry about.
I was really upset. I was really upset because I was like, I trusted you with this really kind of crazy experience. And then when we're alone, you're going to try something on me after we talked about how important, testing and
Well, and just
is.
on top of it, the fact that like he threw the condom down in the first place before it became like a gangbang.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he didn't even like do the normal dude trick. Like, oh, we don't need that.
Right. And I was always really, really
And,
particular about protection.
and not that that justifies it. It just makes it a weirder situation.
Well, I wasn't expecting it. So it was so sneaky. It was done while he was in doggy and I like caught him. I like turned around and was like, where did it go? And he's like, oh, I don't, oops. So anyway, that kind of soured it a little bit, but the actual gangbang itself was fantastic.
I'm I have never been involved in anything like that. So it's just the idea of like after everyone's like done this like good game, like is it like 2 baseball teams like shake hands in the middle of the field and go their separate ways? I just
Everyone pats each other's asses as they walk out.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like I understand how that ends on a set, like when someone calls cut as a yeah like an all natural one. It's like that. It seems like it would be a different ending, like especially if like these dudes had not seen each other's cut, or the fact that like 7 dudes that are all friends with each other were able to get it up and keep it up.
True. That's a really good point. It wasn't even something because I hadn't been in porn, so it wasn't something I was even considering. It just went well. It
Yeah,
was like naturally great.
yeah, because like there's a lot of room for failure there.
Tons. And I've seen that on sets where it's like once you start introducing multiple men, people get in their heads a little bit. They get a little competitive, friendly competitive too. I've heard about guys, being in a swap scene and the one guy will pick up the girl. And so the other one's like, well, I'll pick up this one. They get a little bit competitive. So
Yeah, that's just a wild experience, and
yeah, it was great. And so just my kind of journey in sex work has been a lot of fantasy fulfillment within a professional safe environment. It's especially with the kink stuff I've done crazy like waterboarding and hit with a 2x4 and used a cattle prod. Like I've done all these crazy things that I would have never done in just a normal setting. But since I felt safe with the director and safe with the other performers, like it was just such a fun thing to just see how far I can take something.
how much of that has come into your real life, into your real sex life?
So for a long time, I was super into BDSM in my personal life, and it was fine. I think now that I've tried most everything, it doesn't excite me in the same way. It's more fun for me to introduce other people to it. I like a lot of adrenaline. I like really aggressive, rough sex. And so when you have that kind of connection with somebody, for work or otherwise, it's really exciting. But I don't need to be like hit with a bunch of anymore, or you know what I mean?
It doesn't have to look like an extreme wrestling match when you're done.
It doesn't, and I can't get marked for shoots. Like if you show up for a shoot and you're all bruised or whatever, like they'll send you home. So it's honestly, as I get older, it's harder and harder to find men who can dominate me. So I end up on these sets as a MILF with 20-year-olds, which is very funny to me because they're so young looking, and I have to kind of get past that in my head a little bit. So it's not, there aren't a lot of people dominating me in sex or in kind of like my personal life. So when I get it, it's cool and it's fun, but it just doesn't hold the same thrill as it used to because everything was new.
So are you kind of bored in your personal sex life?
No, I'm being really careful. I'm not like having sex outside of the industry right now. So I'm like
Why not?
I'm kind of recently single
Well, that's good reason.
as of 3 months ago or so, and I don't want to deal with men outside of the industry because if I have male performer friends, I know they're great at sex. I know we have a good connection. I can just kind of like bang it out and not have to worry about, whether they're going to push back on protection, whether they're going to be weird or creepy about my industry. I don't have to worry about testing, all of those kind of things. It's just, and I don't want to date. I have no interest in that. So it just seems like my personal sex life is great and I can have sex when I want it, but I just stick with the performers in the industry.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It's it's an interesting thing because I talk to a lot of performers where they do want to date, and can be potentially a lonely place to be a performer.
Yeah.
And you're just like, no, getting the best of it. And
Well, I've now been in 3 separate relationships while in the industry at certain times, and 2 of them there were issues because of performing, right? I left the industry because the guy I was with was kind of uncomfortable and I could feel it. So that already didn't work out. I dated another guy who was a performer but just, like independent sometimes, and then the fact that I did so much work kind of reminded him that he wasn't doing as much. So that's hard too, and so no matter what, if you're in this industry specifically too, it complicates things when you're in a relationship. And so I just don't, at this point, want the complications. I don't want to be held back when I have the second chance at a career that I thought I would never have again.
and it sucks that like someone made you choose them or your career in the first place.
Well, I mean, to his credit, he never did. He never asked me to leave. It was just me doing less and less because I was worried about him being uncomfortable. And so I have now adjusted in my life to the point where like I won't do less because of someone else's comfort. Because
You shouldn't.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm feeling great.